Good afternoon and welcome to this session on of database unit 18. I want to welcome you guys. Hope you've been keeping well, and hopefully this phase of being remotely accessible only will pass very soon. Okay, so hope you guys are okay. So, we're just going to kick off from where we stopped. Now, remember, most of these things we had already covered it before the college had to break, but I will just um, refresh our memories, okay, before we go into the business of the day. That is actually looking at P3 uh, assignment, that is creating a database, which from the very first lesson I showed you guys how to do using Microsoft Access to create your database. Now, I'll just go straight to the question. Now, just before I go there, I just want to mention that for P2, for some of you, you went ahead and you attempted the question, which is quite commendable, before you looked at the video guides I did on the assignment brief explaining what to do. Now, some of you maybe did not realize or did not read the instructions I gave out, and it's still here. The instruction is also on the assignment brief, and it clearly states that you have three records that have been uploaded on study space. These records are available there on unit 18 page, and you've got one, two, three. You are meant to choose one and normalize the tables there. I gave you records in that sheet so that you will normalize the first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. And I even gave you guys a hint and guide as to how to do that. If you follow what I gave you in the video, even if your answer is not perfect, you will still get close to what it is that is expected of you. Remember, this is not like just simple mathematics, or like you say 1 plus 1 is 2. Some things you have to use your discretion with regards how you want to design your database. So if you feel if for your own design you tend to think that, okay, if I have too many tables that have student records, student name, date of birth on a different table, and their address, if that is suitable for your design, of course, by all means, go for it. But for optimized and optimized best practice, it is recommended that you follow these steps so that you anybody else that will work on your database will find it very easy to follow. And don't forget that we're not just doing this for activity's sake. We're not just doing this just because we want to pass time. It's because you can have a career, you can build a career as a database manager or a database developer. So these are best practices in the industry that you should get familiar with. And I always tell you guys, at the end of the day, our goal is to help you guys to think for yourselves. So outside of what it is that I will provide here as learning resources or help, to help you along the way, you owe yourself a great debt to actually put in the time to practice some of these things. You'll find that some of the things, as you study it, you'll find that you understood even better than how it was explained. You're like, oh, that was what he was trying to say. Maybe because of time, it wasn't put in the right way, or the way that that best suits you. Remember, you have different learners, and you all have different ways you prefer to be taught. And so, as soon as you get the bit of information that you need to carry on that journey, then please, by all means, use that time. That is very important, that you use your own time to try and also develop yourself. Okay, so uh, I will not be talking about the normalization process here because we have already dealt with that, and the data dictionaries. And some of you also forgot to include your data dictionaries in the right format. Please have a look at those resources and make sure you do what you're meant to do based on the instructions there. Okay, so down to the business of the day, and that is P3. P3 is supposed to be create and populate a database. And from the guide here, it says using the tables from task one, design and implement suitable data entry forms which incorporate features to ensure the validity and integrity of data. You must include the following techniques: validation routines, visual prompts, drop down combo boxes. Now, remember that this assignment brief was designed according to a particular class, right? So, my class, remember, we had done this already. We designed a database, and I will show you here today that we had already designed a BTEC calculator that made use of combo boxes. Now, you don't have to use combo boxes in your own group. It all depends on uh, your class or what you're trying to design. But for the minimum expectation, you're supposed to put all of these into practice, and that is number one. The main thing there is the validation routine, the visual prompts, drop down and combo boxes. You can interchange that with different options. You could have a text box and you have a different form of validation for it if you want to use in Visual Basic, and allowing the addition, amendment, and deletion of data. I showed you guys in class, and some of you got to design it before college broke. So some of you might just have to refer to that and submit the work you've done already. But for some of you that haven't done that, then you will need to take your time and design it. Yeah, let me just note at this stage that your there's a link that has been created so that you can access your files from home. So for those of you that have done some work in college and you don't have access to those files, there's a link that has been created. I think it has to do with Stanmore Dropbox or something like that, and you can access your files on college. For more information, you can of course send me a message and I will send that to you on Teams or via email. Okay, so this is the question, and I will just remind you that this was the slide that we went through to show you how to create the database. I will just be showing you what we went through so that you just refresh your memory, because we've already done this already. Remember, we said create a simple database that will accept the following. This was how we started at the beginning of this unit, and I just simply said for you to create a database file using Access, and these were the steps I asked you to use. Now, this slide is also available on Study Space, so I will not be taking too much time on this. This is just to remind you that you had done this, and if you remember what you've done, then you can pick up from there. So these are the instructions. It's available on Study Space. You can download this slide, and this shows how to create the table, the different views. I'll do that practically here. I'll show you what we did in class, but I'm just showing you this slide as a reminder. This is fourth step where we chose a data type for the field name for the field, which is your name. And then if you look on the right side, you have the full fields that are there. That's your name down to Facebook and all of that. This was for demonstration purposes, I mean for practice purposes, and these are the rest of the steps. So I'll just skim through this. So just so you remember, this is what we did here on Visual Basic for the front end. And I told you that you can also create forms on Access, but we haven't done that together as a class. But I wanted us to continue to build our skills in Visual Basic. That was why I provided, I wanted us to go back to Visual Basic and connect to the database, that's Access database. And this, we use data grid view. Look at all the tools we used here on this slide. And we connected to the database here, step 7. And these were the steps that we followed to connect to our database. Remember, this is a video. You can pause anytime you want to, or just simply go to the to Study Space and download this slide. Okay. Now, these things we have done in class, and this is creating the front end of the database. So by the time we were done, we were able to now put in the necessary code. I told you that some of these things here, as long as you know what it is that it's referencing, like if you look at the first bit here, which says that for the previous button, you will see table binding source dot move previous. Now, the challenge with some people is you think that every single table will have that name, but you see that table one binding source, it's the name of your database from when you created it in Access. So I'm just reminding you, this could be anything. You could change it to another name, but this term here, binding source, of course, will still remain. So table one could be any name. It could be Jerry. It could be anything. It all depends on what it could be. Student table. It could be anything you named it in Access. Okay, just so you remember. So this was what we finished with, and this is just a demonstration of testing your database. So I will show you the more advanced one. This is just a refresher, just to remember, just to remind you of what we did. So now I will just take you over to Visual Basic and just show you the Visual Studio. Sorry, if you can remember, we did a BTEC calculator. The reason why I'm showing you this is because this actually has helped you to cover a lot in your in this subject. Remember when we started, I said we'll swing in real quickly and start designing so that you will learn to build for yourself. Now this one here, you would notice makes use of combo boxes, so it meets the criteria for this particular assignment, that is for P3. So for P3, we looked at the requirement which says validation routines, let it have this and that, and this actually a great deal meets those conditions. So if you've designed this already, then you've actually done most of it. The validation prompt, the visual prompt, I will show you, I'll demonstrate that to you here so that you remember what it is that you've done. But before we started designing the calculator, this was the PowerPoint that we used for the lesson. If you can remember, we did a recap on what we had done, and the next thing we went to was just basically I told you guys how to design what to do for your activity, and I gave you hints. So I told you these were the criteria for your design, and all your units should be captured within this design. And we said you should design, I said you should design your interface using your combo boxes. The reason why we use a combo box was so that it would be easy to just choose the options. Of course, you could use text boxes, but when you use text boxes, you should know that, of course, the commands that go with it will not be the same as with your combo boxes. So this was the final layout, and the tools used there: text box, labels, data grid view, all of that. So we designed this, and you have this on study space as well, BTEC and activity, calculator activity, which yes, by the way, I expect that for those of you that have computers at home, you should be able to download Visual Studio so that you can do this at home. So if you haven't done it in college already, then please make sure you download Visual Studio and go ahead and design this. Follow all the instructions. If you need support, you can contact me on my email, via my email, or here on you can connect with me on Teams. So by the way, I'll be available even during the Easter holiday, the Easter break. So for those of you that are behind on assignments, please endeavor to connect, because time is of the essence. We don't know how long we're going to be at home. We hope that we'll be able to get back to school as soon as possible, but it's just best we get everything sorted. So now that you have more time at home, it'll be best you use all the time to try and catch up. So if you want me to remind you of where you are on your assignments, I can do that at a later time. Okay, so this was a slide, and these were the hints I gave, the tips I gave you for your design, and for some of you, you were able to build on the tips. Now the reason why I give you tips is so that it will save you time from searching online for solutions, because like I said, programming is very wide. For every language you pick, there will be a library of commands that you may need from, and you don't always need all of them at the same time. It's the ones you use that you tend to remember. Even sometimes if you don't use it over some time, you tend to over a period of time you may forget, and as a result you now have to go back and check, oh, what was that command I used for this, and you narrow down your search because you know what you're trying to achieve. Now some of you, because of experience, the more you use it, the more you remember, and Therefore, it's easier for you to just code a particular piece of design, So that is what makes you more of an expert when you keep at it. So if you just depend on just this small activity, then you will not build your programming skills. Okay. So it's important, whether it is this subject or another programming language, it's important you practice, get your hands dirty, make your mistakes, and look for solutions. And that's what will make you a better programmer. Don't depend on just these little tips alone. This is just a guide. Okay, and these were the tips I gave you guys, and I showed you here on this screenshot how the database at the background in Access was being populated as I continue to add information from the front end, which I will show you here. So that's that for this particular one, and I'll just show you, go back to Visual Studio, and like I said, you've already designed the database. That's a question that said design a database. Let me just go straight to that and show you first before I go back to the demonstrations. If you can see, yeah, this is from Access. I don't know why my menu bar is not showing here. Uh, but anyways, you can see the important thing is that you can see the tables I created. Now these tables here, I created 3 different tables. If you look on this left side, you have the address, the customer, and the phone tables, right? Now here you've got the phone. Let me just switch view here so you see the datasheet view. So you have this, and phone numbers supposed to go into this table. This is the address table where you've got these addresses, and this just shows the relationship I created. Well, for this particular, for P3, you do not need to show me the relationships, but we have done this already, creating relationships between tables. But the key thing here is you being able to create and populate a database. Okay, so this one here was very simple. Remember where we started from? We said create table, where you say create table, and you save it, and let me just say example table. You say okay. Now everybody, I expect, should have Microsoft Access, but if you do not have, uh, that may be a challenge. You may wish to see if school has access to an account that you can use to download that on your home PC. So this is an example table, and here for the first one, for the first column, let me just say I want to do car rental. So let's just say car ID. So I'm just going to type in my values here, design view. So for this field, it's going to be on car rental. So I'll just say car rental. Remember, we did from your task, that is supposed to be your primary key field. So that's why it's car rental ID, and you leave it on auto number, because that's the data type there. It will automatically add numbers to it as you add your more values to your database. So maybe the first one here will say car make, or let me say car model instead. Let's say model. Now short text takes up to about 255 characters, so that should be fine. You can see, I don't know if you are able to see the bottom of the screen. Maybe I'll have to change the resolution, but there's a part of it, because I've zoomed in very closely, you may not be able to see the validation part of it, but I'll come back to that so that you can see. I can make the screen big enough for you to see. This one is the other table, and still not showing the validation bit. I'll check that for you, and let me try and zoom in. I'll just fix that so that yes, I have it now. So okay, if you look at the bottom of that table, you would notice it has validation. But don't, by all means, do not stretch. I mean, do not overstrain your eyes. But the important things you're putting in, you have a validation rule. Validation, but basically, I just want you to see where you can put your validation rule. Now, when you're talking about validation, it is just basically rules you're setting for it to accept a particular kind of information. So if you say only text, this box should just take only text, for example. This is where you set your rules. If you want to say it's only date, that is where you set your rule. Oh, sorry, it's hanging. Okay, so input mask. If I click on this, you see that it will come. And what that does is it will give you the options to choose from. Oh, I haven't saved my table, so I'm saving my table now. So obviously, yeah. So if you can see that, that's the input mask. All of it just basically helps you to create the rules required for that particular database. I don't know if you see that I have it running. If you have data, if you have access, by all means, please use that. Okay, so let's switch back and notice that the wizard is not showing on the screen for your view. Well, time to just look that up as well. Okay, so for the field name, I'll add rent date, because it's have for data type, you can see date and time. So I've chosen date and time, and if you want to, let me just put if you have car rent, then you can put price. Yes. Okay, so we'll put currency. Okay, so this is just for the database. My database can be as small or as big as I want it to be. So after saving, I'm just showing you, we've done this already. This is just a quick run through of what sorry, you'll notice some delays. Okay, so if front end, now if the car model, there, so it's short text, yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it back as short text because I said 255. I'm noticing a lot of lag in processing here because I have Visual Studio open, I have OBS recording this, so I have a lot of things running in the background. So pardon me for that. Okay, so with this saved on your college PC, please just retrieve the information and just so for rent dates, if you want to choose any date, say $5. Change preferences as well. I, it's taking too much time to sort this out. Anyways, this is supposed to be a test. That's how you populate your database. Remember, it says create and populate your database. So let me just show you how I did it here. Calculated field because I added this plus this. I said it should be a calculated field. Remember how we created open, we chose calculated fields and we chose text and we said let's I guess you should understand or you should have sorry, so sorry for the lag and the wasted time. Okay, the last thing here is the BTEC calculator, which I said we'll look at in Visual Studio, and it's just to show you what is expected from your BTEC calculator. So I'm running the BTEC calculator now. Let me just have that on the screen for you. Hopefully it will not hang. So I'm going to run it. All of this has been explained and the instructions are available on study space. If you need to ask any other questions for clarification, by all means do so. So I'm running the program now. Okay, so my database, I need to close. I had my database running for the BTEC calculator, so I had to just close that first. Okay. I had to close some things running in the background so that we'll get more speed on this. Okay, so it's trying to run. As you can see, the process is registering on the processor, so we'll just give it a few seconds. Okay, while that is still trying to open, let's switch over to the code view and I'll just show you as a reminder as well what we did for the coding. Okay, so finally it comes up. Okay, now this is what we ended up doing. Oh, I can see that it's not, you can't see that on the screen now, so I guess I know why that is happening. Just give me a second. I will just add that so you can see the program running. Okay, great. So this is the BTEC calculator running on your screen. So I'll just put in some value. I'll say Bruce and I'll just fill in the information. The course, I'll say ICT, department IT. I'll just choose any grade I want. Now these were calculated. It's meant to calculate first before it uploads. So if I say calculate, this is the data it has there, and you say save, it says data saved. Okay, so if I want to add another information, I first have to click on add. Okay, so anywhere you see this, I notice I'm saying a lot of okay. Okay, focus. Now this symbol here just tells you that this is where your next information will be going into. So you just say like Sarah, course, say biology, department, let's just say STEM. Then we'll change the grades for her. Remember, it will not take the previous information there because you didn't choose. So you calculate and you save and you get this. Always make sure you click on the add button, then you input your value. So let's say Williams. I'll just put these three, and I'll just say a swimming department. I'll just put science, pass, distinction, merit, pass. You're meant to have 8 subjects, by the way, for yours. This is just the um, example I came up with, just to use to demonstrate that, and you save as well. So you now have three of this. Okay, I noticed that my mouse is dragging on the screen, but when you have this done and you go to where your database file is saved, I've got my database file here and I'm going to open that. That's where the application is running from, and I'll just open that and show you what it looks like from in that's in access, within access. It's in your bin folder, the debug folder. When you open the database, access will show you what you have uploaded. So let's just give it a few seconds and let it start up. Okay, so I have that running in the background. I'll just show you what I mean by that. Okay, I'll just put that up on the screen for you. That's a DB. Sorry, I'm switching between several screens. That's why I seem to be taking some time. Okay, again. So this is what it looks like. This was what, remember, this was what this is the front end where we imputed the values and we're populating the database in the background. So when you put in any value, it should go in to the database. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put another information and see if it will accept it while it's open. Let's see, medicine, science. We'll just leave that as science. We'll just leave it science, and I'll just leave the rest and recalculate and save. Oh, okay. So the reason why you can see this is because I left the value, the selection here, so it replaced this. So I was meant to click on add before saving it, so that was why I didn't put in anything to handle that error for now. Now see what it says, concurrency violation. I didn't put anything to handle it there because that's not what we're focusing on for now. So this was just, let's see, I'll just put in anything here, calculate again, save. Okay, it's refusing to accept this information. Okay, so we have this hanging. Anyways, so you've seen the main thing there was for you to see this, how your database will be populated. So if you notice, if you can see this on the screen, when I clicked on exit, it says confirm if you want to exit. Now that's a visual prompt. Okay, that's a visual prompt that asks if you want that confirms your option. So essentially that is that for this session. It wasn't the goal of the session wasn't to teach you from scratch how to design it, because that has already been done and provided for you on the instructions, on the slides that has all the instructions on study space. And if you're having any challenges, remember, you can always ask questions. So with that said, I'll just remind you that you need to submit. Now, I understand that some of you might have problems with timing, you need more time to submit your work. So what you do is make sure you submit your work. I can give you more time to do your work, but make sure that each day that you have a lesson, you upload the incomplete version on study space, so I can use that as proof of your attendance. Okay, then I can give you more time to submit the actual work. There will be a resubmission link that will create for you. Feel free to email me or contact me on Teams in case you need to ask any questions or about your submissions and the work you need to catch up on. Uh, I've noticed that some people haven't are yet to connect, which is not encouraging. I'm hoping that that will change. So that we tidy up your work. You get to tidy up your work before the close of the term. Okay. I'm sure you've had enough of the OKs for today. So, have a good day. And if there's anything else, okay, just one more thing. I just remembered. Yeah, data validation. I showed you a bit of that already, and I will just switch over to show you a bit of what that is meant to achieve. So, with data validation, I'll skip the recap because you have this already on study space to go through. Now, field validation, record validation rules, and validation on a form. Those are the three main things to cover. And I showed you this on study space already. Sorry, on the presentation, where to see the rules that you will use to access your validation rules, just at the bottom of your screen. Here on the slide, you can see where it shows how to access these things. So you can vet or validate. When you say vet, you can check, basically to check for something. Validate data in Access Desktop database. As you enter it by using validation rules, you can use the expression builder to help you format the rule correctly. Validation rules can be set in either table design or table datasheet view. There are three types of validation rules, and you've got field validation, and the field validation rule can be used to specify criterion. That's one criteria. That's one criteria that all valid field values must meet. For example, the date field might have a validation rule that disallows values in the past. If you look at the screenshot there on the right, bottom right, you will notice that you have those under the general tab on the at the bottom. You have where you have validation, which says greater than or equals to 0. Now that greater than or equals to 0, you can see the quick example there says it will disallow values in the past. So that means dates, that's greater than sign, greater than or equals to date sign, uh, with open bracket and close is the rule. You just need to put that in. So if you want emails to be imputed in a particular field, you need to set that rule. So if it's an email format, you need to put that there. If you don't want numbers less than a particular value, these are the examples you can use there: number less than or equal to 5, and currency field. So these are the places to put it. Remember, I showed you that on access. So this is also on study space to refer to. Record validation rule. You can use a record validation rule to specify a condition that all valid records must satisfy. You can compare values across different fields using a record validation rule. For example, a record with two date fields might require that values of one field always precede values of the other field. So start date is before end date. So if somebody does it the other way around, because you have set the rule there, it means that it will not accept it. So if you look there, I know the picture is kind of blurry, but you see validation rule says end date must be greater than or equals to start date. So that is a rule that you set, so that when somebody puts in that value the other way around, it will give an error. It will say no, it is incorrect. And this is a continuation of what we're just talking about here. Ensure that end date doesn't come before the start date. Enter a required date that occurs no more than 30 days after the order. So these are different rules. You have different ways you can set rules, and different kinds of rules you can impute. It depends on, first of all, what kind of information you want the users to put in and what rule you want to set. That's your starting point. What information do I want them to put in? Do I want them to put a phone number? Do I want to spell and put their names? Must their names be a particular minimum of how many characters? Are initials accepted? If any initials are not accepted, then you say anything less than maybe one, because people will tend to just want to put J or B. You can just you can put in rules, there validation rules that will help you with that. So uh, field validation this is just an exercise that we're meant to do in class. So if you have access with you, your access software open, just like how I showed you at the beginning of this session, you can do this, exactly what you have on screen here, so that you make sure that the value there has to be imputed. So click on the student name field, go to the general tab at the bottom of the page and change the required option to yes. That is the value, they must enter a value. So allow zero length, that is, can they leave it to be empty? If they can, if you want it, if you can allow them to submit the form empty, that's that particular part empty, then fine, you can do that. You can set the rules for that. And here, this is the second page, and it shows that you created for course, the validation rule there, it says the length of whatever course they put in must not be less, it's the length of course less than 3. So that's that particular one. If you set that rule, then it definitely means that it can be less, it should be less than 3. That's a rule that you set there. Okay, that's for the character, the character limit. So anything that is maybe just a 2-letter word, less than 3, of course, it will reject it. And here is is still part of the exercise, and this is what comes up when you set the rule and somebody tries to violate it. The rule we just set here, once you set that rule, and you can see here under course I put politics, it will not accept anything more than 3. That is why you can see that error coming up there. I hope this is clear enough, because I tried to simplify that as much as possible. So it because of the rule I set. Okay, so that's basically the end of validation rules. It's quite simple and straightforward. And these were the things we went through, how to apply the validation rules. So with that being said, I can formally tell you that we've come to the end of this session. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact